Well, you did the research, you found the car, you bought the car. Now, keeping the car in good condition is the key. Perhaps you've heard of service plans that dealerships offer after the purchase of a vehicle, but what should you look for in that service package? Well, David Moss, General Manager of Moss Nissan, for our Auto Informer segment, is back to shed some light on this one. David, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, we are glad you're here today.
Thanks for having me.
So the service package, I mean, sometimes I feel like it's thrown in after you're dealing with all of the negotiation and that's said and done, and then you hear words like service package and you're like, oh, I got to worry about that now. Well, how can dealerships use that, and what do people need to keep in mind? Well,
what you got to keep in mind, and if you haven't bought a car recently, one of the things that you'll probably experience is you'll get things in the mail. You'll get these things, they look like they're super important, and it's like your warranty's about to expire. Have you ever got one of those in the mail?
And
I
the
get
phone
them in
calls.
the mail. And the phone calls, and they drive you nuts because you're thinking, oh man, my warranty is expiring. What am I going to do? I mean, you jump at that opportunity to go and buy a service contract when there's a lot of different service contracts out there. There's a lot of maintenance plans out there. There's a lot of protections out there. And you can take it as far as you want. But one of the best opportunities is when you are buying a vehicle to take advantage of those agreements because they last as long as you want them to. Because not everybody's going to buy a car and keep it for 10, 15 years. Sometimes you buy a car and you really only plan on keeping it for 3 years or 5 years. And if your plan is to keep it for 3 or 5 years, buying a warranty that lasts 7 to 10 years is kind of a waste of money in the long run.
Absolutely. So you're saying the one up front that when you're done signing the lines and you don't want to sign anymore, I mean, you know how the process can be. It is smart to go ahead and maybe knock it out right away.
Well, it's kind of similar to buying life insurance. When you're younger, the life insurance is a little less expensive because the risk isn't as high. If your car's mileage are starting to get up there and the year's starting to get up there, it might cost a little more it might be a little more expensive to buy a warranty or a maintenance plan than it would in the beginning, and it might not cover all the things you really need it to cover. So there's a lot to look at, and you want to make sure if you are going to buy a maintenance agreement, a warranty, anything like that, that it covers the things that you need it to cover, not just an extended warranty, because there's some trick words. A maintenance agreement and an extended warranty are really two separate things.
I was going to ask, there's a lot of words we're throwing out there. What are the differences between those? Let's use that as the first example.
So really an extended warranty is just taking the factory warranty, which is good, and just extending it.
Okay.
But there are limitations. There are some small disclaimers that just might not allow things that might start breaking to be covered, and we call it the gray area. You want the gray areas covered too. If you're going to spend the extra money, you want to make sure there's no gray area. If anything happens, you want to make sure it's covered, because if you're spending a couple $1,000s for something, you want to make sure that you're not left out to dry. Extended warranties, you got to be a little careful with. Make sure it covers the things, and make sure there's not a lot of loopholes that basically whoever's holding that policy can jump through and say, hey, this doesn't cover this doesn't cover that. But a maintenance agreement might cover all the maintenance that needs to be done on the vehicle in a time that it needs to be done, which I think maintenance agreements might be a better value for customers because you're actually going to use it.
So the maintenance agreement and the service plan, are those two separate things, or are those two the same?
Those are kind of two, it depends, and those could be two of the same, but they also could be two totally different. A service agreement, a maintenance agreement, there's warranties that cover everything. There's warranties that cover your paint, there's warranties that cover your tires in the event you get a screw in the side of your tire and you have to replace it. There's warranties that cover the inside, there's warranties that cover just about everything. And most dealerships and most places that sell vehicles do offer different warranties, different agreements for different things. And it's not a one-size-fits-all, because everybody has an experience from their past. If you've parked under a tree for a long time and you get sap on your hood and you go to trade that car in and they say, hey, well, we're gonna have to repaint the hood and the roof of your car is gonna be worth X amount of dollars less, you're probably going to buy a paint agreement, some kind of a paint warranty to make sure that it's covered that you're not hit with that again. Well,
unfortunately, we are out of time, but of course, I know one of the care options that is best is, of course, the Moss Care, which you're able to offer. If you want more information on Moss Care and how they can help you out, well, go ahead, visit David, mossnissan.com. There's the address and phone number as well. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.